regular session. Roll call.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Here.
Councilman Nadell?
Here.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Gager is absent this evening. Mayor Leggio?
Here.
Thank you.
Pledge of allegiance and a moment of individual prayer, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Accepting of minutes.
Motion to accept minutes, March 4th, 2025.
A second?
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Yes.
Thank you.
Reports of township department officials.
Couple of quick ones. So Saturday, April 5th, 2025, Oak Glen Park, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we will be having our annual Easter in the Park. There's going to be egg hunts, music, games, food, demonstrations, face painting, a petting zoo, and as always, the Easter Bunny will be there. Thursday, May 1st, here at the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9 North, we will have at 7 p.m. our National Day of Prayer, so all are invited. And on Friday, May 16th, we will be having a babysitting course from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for young people ages 11 to 15 years old. 4-hour course. You can learn all there is about babysitting. It's being given through the Red Cross and the Heart Association. So the cost is $30, and again, that'll be right here at the municipal building.
Nothing for me.
Nothing from legal.
All right. I would like to open the floor now for hearing of citizens and public comment.
Each person shall first give their name and address to the clerk. The council should be addressed as a collective body and not as individual members. Each person shall have one turn to address the council, and comments shall not exceed a total of 5 minutes. Speakers shall be notified when their time has run, and no time extension shall be permitted.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Do I have to be sworn in for this, or is this just an informal?
Name and address, please.
Okay, Ron Springer, 494 Lakewood Farmingdale Road in Howell. Should I proceed?
Proceed.
Yeah. Okay, this is a letter that we drafted, kind of follow up on our previous letter of January 6, 2025, so I think most of the people on the board or on the council are semi-aware of what's going on here. But as a follow-up to this letter, as farmers in Howell Township, we are aware of the efforts that the mayor and the council have considered to help preserve independent farms. We embarked on a plan over a year ago to obtain approval to use our farm for events such as birthday parties and showers and occasional weddings. After many months and substantial costs, close to $100,000, we are nearing the finish line to begin to utilize our farm for small events. We did not initially anticipate the high cost of this project that included boundary survey, topographic survey, LOI application to DEP, FHA application to DEP, hiring a civil engineer to design the plans, hiring an attorney, professional planner, traffic engineer, and wetlands expert. And now we're dealing with the county. And just standing here before you guys tonight, we've been on this farm for over 20 years. We've been pretty good citizens, I think. It's been a lot of hard work. I work probably 60 hours most weeks to try to keep this place looking good. We've been good citizens. We've donated to the Girl Scouts, to the Little League teams. We donated to landscaping, to Soldier Field. And at this point in time, we never anticipated that it would cost this much to, get this kind of permission to do these events. I know recently you approved all farms to do events for up to 50 people, and there was no cost involved for anyone there. And now we have a lot of frontage on our property, and it's a rural road where there are no sidewalks from Farmingdale to Lakewood. And it looks as if with this sidewalk fund, building these sidewalks costs $15,000. And it's just so far beyond anything we ever anticipated and anything we really can afford at this point. So now we're right at the place where we think we could start, earning money to save our farm, and this seems like not a very fair way to end it. And I'm just standing before you guys tonight asking that you would consider waiving this for us, because I know it's happened for other people in rural locations where sidewalk fund contributions are waived. And I feel like we really do deserve it and we need it. And I'm just standing here tonight asking that you would consider it and would help us out and just make us feel like we really have the town behind us. It's still going to cost us some money to do some things the county wants. And we're just appealing to you guys for some help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Leave these letters with Thanks.
Betty Velez Gimbel, 97 Victory Road. I came before you on February 4th to discuss the Victory Road warehouse. I provided an overview, and I questioned why the Howell Township Planning Board attorney, Ron Cucchiaro, was not welcoming the Sierra Club's involvement in the litigation. Councilman Nadell questioned, answers were promised. I'm hoping that you had an opportunity to discuss this with Mr. Clark. I appreciate the time that you took today, Mr. Clark, to speak with me. Please don't take this personally, but I'm still left with an uneasy feeling. So I'd like to share 2 emails with council to help you understand why. The first email is from Mr. Clark that referenced the Sierra Club might want to intervene in the matter of their own right not to represent the town. From what I understand, Ron didn't reject the Sierra Club's participation, but instead advised it that it is free to take whatever action it thinks is necessary to intervene. Right now, we're waiting to see what happens. The next email is from the Sierra Club. If the Sierra Club were to get involved, it would only work if there was a collaboration with the township and discussion of legal strategy that would be helpful to the town. So far, Ron Cucchiaro does not seem interested in such collaboration. The Sierra Club wants to work with the town. According to my legal sources, nothing prevents the planning board from doing this. The residents of Victory Road have been through enough. And here's a bit of an overview of some of the things that we've gone through. At the start of this nightmare, we lost Councilman Gazer's planning board vote when he visited with some of Victory Road residents under the tutelage of Councilwoman O'Donnell. We were chastised by a planning board member on Facebook who, as a result, recused himself. We were ridiculed by a former councilwoman who called into a radio station to label us activists and joined in the Facebook chatter. We fundraised and contributed our own funds to pay our legal team and experts over $94,000. We were used in campaign shenanigans by Councilwoman O'Donnell, who pleaded for the property's purchase in upwards of $10 million on the back of the taxpayers. And now we are left with the uncertainty of a Whispering Woods settlement agreement, as is customary to the appeals process. If the town does not want a warehouse project, then why not coordinate with Sierra Club? Unless the town plans to give in and compromise with Active Acquisitions and Stavola Realty with a backroom deal, I'm not happy with what I feel are games, and I will not stop until I find the answers. We're asking our elected officials to stand behind us, the residents. Thank you.
Anyone else? I have not seeing anyone, so I make a motion to close public comment.
Motion to close public.
Second?
Second. All in favor? Aye.
All right. Would anyone like to respond?
I'll just briefly touch on some of the legal issues that Ms. Velez brought up. Technically, the board getting sued is the planning board, not the council. You guys really don't have any oversight onto that litigation. You appoint the planning board members, but they're a separate entity altogether that controls that litigation. Regardless, from my conversations with Mr. Cucchiaro, you know, it doesn't seem like there's any oppositions to if the Sierra Club wants to intervene, which is a typical course of action for a third-party entity who might have different interests than the entity that's already involved. If they wanted to intervene, from my understanding, there's not going to be any oppositions to that, but they have to ask the court to intervene. And just as a basis of understanding for public entities, if there are potential conflict issues, typical private clients are permitted to waive conflicts. A public entity is not allowed to waive any type of conflict. So if there is any type of conflict of interest, which I can't speak to because I'm not involved in the case, but if there is a conflict in there, the planning board is not permitted to waive it as a public entity.
Any other professionals?
No, just I'll reiterate what Caitlin just said, so I'll put my lawyer hat on for a second. The neater, cleaner way is for Sierra Club to intervene on its own right instead of piggybacking off of the town or joining in with the town. Planning board would need to exercise its authority to permit that to happen. And then if a conflict were to somehow arise, they're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So Sierra Club could conceivably, on their own initiative, come into the action themselves. And again, I don't think that there would be any sort of opposition to that.
Any other professionals? No? Mrs. Fisher? Councilman? Woman?
Yeah, at some point, in terms of the Springers and their concern, yeah, I'd like to really have a conversation with the council and some of the things that we are privy to of that particular area, so we can have a better view of a resolution if that could be the case. So I know there's well, I'll talk to the council, I guess, offline, because I don't want to get, if there's any pending litigation anywhere down the road, I don't want to compromise the council, but I think it's a conversation that we still need to have.
Just as a planning board member, I just don't want to publicly discuss anything involving the Sierra Club.
Same here, as being a planning board member. We will discuss that in executive with the proper channels. As far as Mr. Springer, Mr. and Mrs. Springer, as Evelyn said, we need to talk about this as a group, and we look at every case individually, and I understand your frustrations about, how much, what you've put out, trying to get to the point where you're at today, and, that's a county road, and it's, no surrounding sidewalks, no curbs, no aprons, it's something that we need to just collectively talk about at the proper time. So when and if you come for that relief, we'll discuss it then. All right? Fair enough? All right. Information, all right, consent agenda items. We'll vote on the consent agenda items, and I wish to pull one agenda item separately, R25-113. It's authorizing the increase of Howell Township Council members' annual salary. I am making a motion to table this until we have a full council to vote on it, being that Mr. Councilman, Deputy Mayor, Mr. Gazer is not here. I would like to make a motion to table this.
I'll second that motion.
Councilwoman Fisher.
Yes.
Councilman Nadell.
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
A strong abstention.
And Mayor Leggio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion to carry has been approved.
Resolutions?
Make a motion, approve Resolution 25-107 through and including R25-112.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Yes.
Thank you. The consent resolutions pass.
Resolutions to be voted on separately. We will now proceed with resolutions to be voted on separately. I'm sorry, I repeated myself.
R25-114, providing for transfers between budget appropriations contained in the 2024 Appropriation Reserves Municipal Budget.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve R25-114.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes. Resolution R25-115, resolution of the Township of Howell, County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, authorizing the transfer of $164,000 from the 2024 appropriation reserves for accumulated leave to the Cumulative Reserve Trust Fund pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-39 and NJAC 5:30-15.
Motion?
Motion to approve R25-115.
I'll make a second, and I would ask, Mr. Clark, could you just elaborate on this so that the people sitting here and the people at home are
Sure,
clear
so
on what we're doing?
it's money left over that we're then moving into the Recovery Trust Fund. We didn't need it this year, so it's getting parked, and it'll stay there for future use.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes. R25-116, authorizing the transfer of $500,000 from the 2024 appropriation reserves for snow removal to the Storm Recovery Reserve Trust Fund pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-62.1 and Public Law 2001.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
All right. Unfinished business, public hearing and adoption of ordinances.
So, Mr. Mayor, before after Diane reads the titles and before you guys vote on them, Matt's going to give a short description of everything and sort of explain the purpose.
Okay.
Except the first. Okay. Ordinance 25-08, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, authorizing the leasing of a portion of Echo Lake Park in the Township of Howell pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-15.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 25-08.
Excuse me, we need a public hearing on ordinance 2508, which is now open. If anyone wishes to comment on this ordinance, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, professionals. Mark Parisi, 2 Castle Court. I'm just going to make a general comment about all of these farming ordinances. I just want to applaud everybody that was involved in this. Council, Township Administration, Betty, Howell Farmers United. I know that this has been like a year and a half. Nothing's perfect, but I think that, based upon conversations that I've had with people in the community and some of the people up here at the dais, that we've landed in a good place where there's something that we can put on the books, see how it works. We can always come back and tweak things. And I just think it's really good for the community that we're able to get these ordinances. I know that having, learned a lot, that there's not a lot of this going on in the state, and I recognize that, Matt, you know what I mean? We're carving out some new stuff here. So I think it's really awesome that we're able to do something and, maybe lead by example to other towns in the county and in the state, and see what we've done and how it works. So I just want to just say something nice and just, give a kudos to everyone involved.
Motion to close public?
Motion to close public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, make the motion again?
Yes, please.
Okay, now I move to adopt ordinance 25-08.
Second.
Councilman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 0-25-9.
Motion,
Hold on. You want me to read it? Okay, the title is an ordinance amending Chapter 188, Land Use, Article 1, Title, Purpose, Definitions, Section 4, entitled Definitions and Rules of General Applicability of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
So this ordinance is just putting some definitions to some new terms, such as farms, farm-related special events, both small and large scale, farmers market and farm stands. Ultimately, a lot of those terms are coming in the ordinances that will follow, so they're starting to match up, putting a definition for those terms that come later.
The public hearing on ordinance 25-09 is now open. If anyone wishes to comment on this ordinance, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
seeing no one, I make a motion to close public.
Motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
I'll make a motion to adopt said ordinance.
Second.
Councilman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
I fully support this ordinance, but I will be abstaining.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 25-10, an ordinance amending Chapter 188, Land Use, Article 9, zoning requirements to add Section 64.1, entitled Farm-Related Special Events, Small Scale, of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
So this section creates what we think is one of the first permit processes in the state to allow for weddings, milestone events, birthday parties, anniversary parties on farms. This ordinance is important because it excludes certain size events from site plan review. So this means that you could come to the community development office through land use, and obviously if you need building permits, they'll be involved as well. If you're doing things with cooking under tents, fire bureau may be involved, but you can pull administrative approvals. So no site plan approval for events up to 50 people in size. We've also extended that to up to 80 people. If you're on a preserved farms tend to be larger than your standard Q farm. So we feel comfortable going up in size. And this is a permit process that should take a matter of days, maybe a week or so, as opposed to site plan, which can take months. So we think this will be really good for the farms to be able to do small-scale events without taxing infrastructure or hopefully not creating issues with neighbors.
The public hearing on ordinance 25-10 is now open. If anyone wishes to comment on this ordinance, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Betty Velez Gimbel, 97 Victory Road. Just wanted to, again, thank council and admin for this one, because we are very well versed in the right to farm, and this was not a permitted activity under the right to farm, especially for just the Q farm. So we appreciate extending that to all farms. And we also will appreciate the future as far as working with any issues or an understanding as we move forward to each individual farm, should there any issues arise. So thank you.
Just to echo that, Ms. Gimbel's correct. Right to Farm doesn't permit any of these events, so this is something a little bit off a separate branch, but we're excited to do it. We're excited to be one of the first to do it. And, you know, it's something that Right to Farm's lacking in being able to offer this protection. So it is a great tool that Howell's able to use. We hope that in the future we're going to have no issues. We hope we're going to have no complaints, and we'll be back here making revisions to loosen the reins and to be able to expand on these, but that'll come in time.
So I'll agree quickly. It was a process. You know, we have it in place now. There's a few farms that are going to be able to take advantage of it, so whoever's out there watching this on the internet, come to Howell for your wedding, for your special occasion events. We're open for business now, so.
Anyone else from the public? No? Motion to close public?
Motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 25-10.
Second.
Before we vote, can I ask for clarification on one point?
Sure.
Okay. This is in particular to the guidelines that the governor had put forward, correct? With
So-
the preserved and the qualified farm.
Yeah, so the governor, what the law that was passed was allowing for preserved farms the opportunity to do these events. They didn't give themselves ultimate say and say the township can or can't do anything. What happens when you preserve a farm, the language in the easement is very specific. You can farm this area, you could use these tools, you can't put new structures up, or you can. You can't put new houses up, or you can. It's very specific. And there's no easement in the state of New Jersey that probably included special events. So the governor was saying that we're going to give you an opportunity to release language in that easement through the holder, which is usually the county or the state, that they would let you do the events, and they gave some guidelines, but it still said that you had to go to the town. This is giving you, on the small scale, the town now being able to smooth the path, no site plan, and to be able to come in for a permit, because otherwise, without the ordinance, as we know, site plan and use variance. With this ordinance, administrative permit, under these conditions.
I just wanted to, have clarification on the point that this really started out as a small funnel, all good intentions, obviously, and it was difficult because there wasn't clear-cut a venue for
Yeah,
us
I
to
mean,
follow. So
as-
that was very difficult, at the least. But I'm very happy. I think there's 2 preserved qualified farms that can take advantage of the larger venue, such as a wedding. So it's a good beginning, and I think Mr. Clark has made a nice commercial that bring your wedding to Howell. So-
As Ms. Gimbel said, right to farm doesn't cover it. Then the state
Correct.
comes in and says, we're going to allow you some flexibility in your easement just for preserved, and the towns have to deal with everything.
Yes.
It's extremely complicated, it's overlapping, these ordinances are more detailed than anybody wants, but that's the condition that's created by these laws, because they're not giving just a streamlined approach, and there's certain aspects of what the farm is doing versus what the on-farm direct marketing allows you to do, and there's strict parameters, there's very little oversight from it from the county or the state, almost none, and it does
None.
leave the township to have to kind of get involved more than we want. And I think the product here speaks about the year and a half of work that was put in by everybody, and I think it's going to be a success.
Yeah, I just wanted to, remind everybody watching at home and whatnot that, this was a very unusual task to undertake, to come out with something, that was going to be viable for the qualified farm, the preserved farm, and neighboring people, and, to achieve the task at hand and the focus that I'm sure the governor at the time was looking at. And I commend you for finding that narrow pathway to the end of this with a good result. So I thank administration very, very much. I know it was not easy. And that's it.
I'll continue with roll call. On the vote, Councilwoman Fisher? Yes. Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Again, I support this ordinance 100%, but I abstain.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 25-11, an ordinance of the Township of Howell supplementing Chapter 188, Article 10 zones, supplementing Section 188-69 entitled Agricultural Rural Estate Zones, ARE1, ARE3, ARE4, and ARE6, and Section 69.1, Agricultural Rural Estate, ARE2, to include farm-related special events, large-scale, and farm-related special events, small-scale, as a permitted use.
Somewhere Mayor Berger is just very happy she didn't have to read that. So this is a pretty simple one. It's just a couple sections listing the agricultural rural estate zones. What this is doing is putting small-scale and large-scale events as a principal permitted use in the zone. Small-scale events are the ones we just passed the permit requirements for. Large-scale still do have to go for site plan. Future ordinances will hopefully make that easier, that are on tonight, future ordinances. But this is putting them as principal permitted uses, which means no use variance, no conditional use variance, no zoning board, that the applications can proceed to the planning board if needed, which is over 50 people for a qualified farm, over 80 people for a preserved farm.
The public hearing on ordinance 25-11 is now open. If anyone wishes to comment on this ordinance, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I'm seeing no one, so motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt ordinance 25-11.
Second?
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Support 100%, but I abstain.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 25-12, an ordinance amending Chapter 139 fees, Article 17, Land Use, subsection 31, entitled Land Use Certificates, subsection 34, entitled Site Plans and Subdivisions, and subsection 41, entitled Escrow Amounts for Professional Services of the Rules of the General Applicability of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
Mostly a housekeeping ordinance, so we're doing a permit for the administrative approvals. This is setting a reasonable fee for that. It's in line with our other land use permits. Also, we did follow the state guidance in their law, saying that there's a $50 fee for preserved farms under their law, so we matched $50 for ours as well.
The public hearing on ordinance 25-12 is now open. If anyone wishes to comment on this ordinance, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I am seeing no one, so I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt said ordinance.
Second.
Councilman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Support 100%, abstain.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 25-13, an ordinance amending application checklist subdivisions, site plans and variance applications to add Addendum A entitled Farm-Related Special Events Checklist of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
This was probably one of the harder ordinances to come up with over the last, we've been working on it solely for about 6 months, is a revised checklist. So when somebody does have to go to the planning board, we don't want it to be more arduous and difficult than it needs to be. So we've taken our checklist, pared it down significantly, what was 90-plus items. It's still over 45, it's close to 50 items, but the items are relatively straightforward. We're looking for a plan, you're going to have to get a survey of the site, a plan, show us just the improvements that are being made, where the events are being held. This is obviously only if site plan is needed. And if it's a smaller sized event and we're not having a traffic impact, we're asking for like a narrative from the owner as to how they're going to manage traffic. Same thing with parking and noise. If it becomes that we do get a 3,000-person venue, then in the checklist, it does give the board the ability to ask for more information. So what we've done is we have a lot of those items that are taking out environmental reports, things that don't pertain unless they are very specific to your site, and we're making that effort a lot easier. In terms of the site plan, again, it's only for permitted uses. This is a permitted use, so it's going to the planning board. This should make the process a lot easier. And for the farms that have gone through the entire site plan and use variance process, we also have in all of these ordinances that this doesn't apply. So the administrative permit, any requirement under these ordinances, they just have to follow their site plan and use variance approval. That's what's fair. They've gone through that process, so they're going to have a little bit easier time too. And we think that's fair.
The public hearing on ordinance 25-13 is now open. If anyone wishes to comment on this ordinance, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Seeing no one, may I make a motion to close public hearing?
Motion to close public.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt 25-13.
Motion to adopt ordinance 25-13.
I'll second?
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Supported 100%, abstain.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted.
Now, introduction of ordinance.
Ordinance 0-25-14, an ordinance of the Township of Howell supplementing Chapter 188, Article 10 zones, supplementing and modifying Sections 188-79.1, Special Economic Development Zone -1, SED1, to include active and passive recreation uses, including outdoor and indoor facilities as a permitted use.
May I have a motion to introduce? 25-14?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 25-14.
Second.
Councilman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Nadell?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Leggio?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is properly introduced.
The next regular scheduled council meeting will take place on April 1st, 2025. The executive session begins at 6 PM, and the regular session begins at 7 PM. Seeing no further business before the council.
I'm sorry, could I make one remark?
Yes.
I meant to say, and I'd be remiss if I didn't do it at this point, a former volunteer, Mr. Paul Schneider, had been hospitalized. He was ill. I'm happy to say he's home. He's getting stronger, so please continue to pray for his recovery to continue. This was a gentleman that served over 50 years in this town, so he brings volunteerism to a level that's tough to match. So, Paul, we think of you often. We wish you well, and if you need anything, pick up the phone. We're all still here. Thank you.
Seeing no further business before the council, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.